That's it. Hello and welcome back. I'm Eric. This is Panther Performance, and today I'm going to show you how to get SA95 springs on the back of your Panther. So let's get right into it. So as a disclaimer and a quick heads up, I did notice after doing some research that SA95 springs or new edge springs aren't as plentiful as I thought they would be on the online market. Now, a brand new spring is probably going to cost you as much as, if not more than, the actual Moog spring that people use on these, or even the GT500 spring. But that being said, junkyards, there's plenty of them that have SA95s and new edges in them, and as well as eBay and Craigslist, you should be able to find parts there fairly easy. You pull it yards are also pretty good. So I mean, you're not out of options. And again, your friends might have some stuff, or you might even have some stuff left over from old projects that you don't even realize you have. You know, I know I'm a parts hoarder, so I have that type of stuff. But you know, who knows? So anything from a 94 to a 2004 is definitely going to work with the method that I am going to show you. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your research, when you're finding your parts. And whether it's a V6 or a V8, it doesn't matter. At the end of the video, I'm going to get into the differences of the V6 versus the V8 spring, but it's really not as serious as all that. So it should work so that, you know, you have plenty of options. You have 10 years worth of a vehicle that you can mess with and pick from. So I hope that helps. So I'm hoping I don't have to tell you guys how to take your tires off. I really hope that wasn't necessary for me to show you. But you're going to take off both tires. You're going to take off both rear tires because you need the play in the suspension. Once you do that, you're going to go ahead and you're going to support your rear end with your jack. Now, I'm going to do one side, but it's the same procedure for both sides. Now, I already did my suspension, obviously. I put the lowering springs on. So, you know, my Panther springs are not in there. My SA95 springs are in there. But it would be the same process either way. So you're going to go ahead. You're going to take your... it's a 3/4 inch socket, a 3/4 inch nut that's on this strut. And you want to disconnect your strut from your suspension. And, you know, once you get your nut and bolt off, your nut and your washer, sorry, you're going to go ahead and you're just going to slide your strut, your shock, whatever it is, right out of that hole. And you're going to turn it sideways. Let me show you what I got. So you're going to pull it out of here, out of the hole, and then you're going to turn it sideways so it doesn't catch the hole back when you go to lower. Very simple. Notice I did not disconnect the upper or lower control arm. All right, got a little play there. Just get that replaced. And then you just lower it. Now, I see everybody go crazy with the strut, with you know, bungees and wrapping up your things with towels and all that so the spring doesn't come flying at you. And now this spring does not have as much pressure on it as the SA95, as the Panther spring did, but it's the same process. So you take both sides apart and you just lower the car to where all of the weight is sitting on the control arm. That's it. Once you do that, you get it low enough, you can push down on either side. So you can actually go to that side, lift it up a little bit, and push this side down manually. That'll take the pressure off of that side, and you don't have to worry about it flying out at you or doing anything crazy. Now, again, I'm not under a lot of pressure here, so, you know, I did it, and I've done this a million times, so I know that it's not going to come out at me. That's why I was so confident lowering the suspension. So, you know, safety is always first, and safety is always important. And I'm not, I'm not criticizing people for that. You know, how you do your job is how you do your job. How you do, work on your hobbies, how you work on your car is how you work on your car. I can't say anything. I'm not that type of person. But I don't go crazy with that. It's simple. So we're out, and I'm going to show you the SN95 spring up close so that you guys have a better understanding of what goes on. So, this is the same process, like I said, for the Panther spring as well as the SN95 spring, obviously. You want to pop it sideways and pull it on out. And that's it. Let me show you the side-by-side, though. So this is a side-by-side comparison of your SN95 springs versus your Panther spring. You got your little bit of difference there. And that little bit of difference is what, lowers the car. Now, your spring perch on your Panther is going to be smaller on the top than on the SN95. So your bottom's pigtails are going to be the same, so that's the same on the bottom perch. So what you want to do for the top perch is make the center of the spring the same size as the pigtail on the old spring. To do that, I took an isolator from the SN95 and the isolator from the Panther, and I coupled them together so that now the spring perch, if you see it up here, that guy right there, that spring perch is going to seat inside that spring and keep the spring orientated properly inside your suspension. I see a lot of guys just cut a coil off of here and they throw it up there, and I just don't understand how the spring doesn't move around on them. But to each their own, and that's fine. So I'm going to put this back in here, and I'm going to show you how it goes in, and how it goes in would be how it comes out in reverse. So, and now going back in, it is very simple. You take your spring, you slide it inside the perch, make sure the pigtail is oriented towards the back. The end of the pigtail is facing the back of the car, and then you just take your jack, situate it up underneath your rear end, and you just start jacking. You bring up one side at a time. I mean, if you have more than one person, it'd definitely be easier, but make sure your spring perch is inside your cup. That's it. She's up. Now you want to take the rest of it, go in, and you slide your shock back in to the location. Take your washer and your nut. Put your washer first, then your nut. Wash your nuts. And then boom. Go ahead and tighten that on there. Let's get as finger tight as we can get it. Take your your socket, and start wrenching back. Make sure you're nice and snug on there. Now, proper way to do it would be to get your torque wrench out and, spec it and get your little click to make sure you're right. But that's what I think of that. You just want to make sure she ain't gonna come loose on you, and that's it. So now we go ahead and lower it, and that's it. That's it. Suspension in and out. And let me show you. Let me get you the there's your one spring, and it's gonna be the same way on both sides. I mean, that's. See if I can show you the other side there, if you can see it. But I mean, it's generally the same thing. So it's nothing too crazy to go on. That's it. Very simple. So I think the final end result, if I'm not mistaken, was 1.5 inches in the back. To go with the already inch or so that I lowered up front. Might have been more. It was a long time ago. I cut one coil off in the front. So, you know, that's front and back. And that's it. You know, pretty much a junkyard piece. And I made it work. That's that. So, I mean, that was my rear springs on my Grand Marquis. And that was how I got them to work. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video that there's going to be a difference between V6 and V8 springs. Now, there's going to be two differences. One difference would obviously be the ride height. Now, the ride height isn't too crazy between the two because of the weight of this vehicle in comparison to the weight of that vehicle. You're really only going to get maybe 3/8 of an inch of difference between the two. So obviously the V6 springs will be a little bit lower than the V8 springs. That's the 3/8 difference. So it's really not going to matter too much. The other difference between the two would be the progressiveness of the springs. Now, an old drag racer's trick that worked great on the Fox bodies was to actually take the 4-cylinder spring and throw it on a V8 car so that the suspension travel in the back would be you would have a little bit more play, more cushion, so it squats better to take off and launch. And the same rule would apply pretty much for this. So your V6 spring is going to squat a little bit more than the V8 spring would, and you're going to actually get a little bit more traction. Now, is it going to affect the way the car handles in the turns? Not really. Again, the car is so heavy, so you're taking a 3,000-pound car, a spring from a 3,000-pound car, and throwing it underneath a 4,000-pound car. So that little bit of difference in between the two, you're really not going to see it that much in the turns. I changed from the Panther spring to the SN95 spring, and it actually feels a lot better in the turns. My spring is from a V6. It was from a 97 SN95 V6. It feels tighter in the turns. I feel more confident in the turns, and I'm not going to say that's a placebo or what, but that's just how it is. I do enjoy the car a lot more. It feels better and it looks better. It's just a better look. So at that point, I guess it will be personal preference of how you want your suspension to feel. She's not saggy in the back. It doesn't bounce around. There's nothing crazy. It feels awesome. It truly does. So, I mean, I recommend trying it out. You know, if you don't like it, you don't like it. It is what it is. So, again, that was my rear springs on my Panther, on my 2000 Mercury Grand Marquis. And, you know, that was it. So, thanks for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.